I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined as usual by Andrew, and we're here today for yet another episode of My Star Wars Show. And today we're talking all about our favorite Star Wars quotes. But before we do, we want to talk to you about your favorite Star Wars quotes. And spoiler alert, you're late because we already did. So if you in the future want to submit your thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, and ideas, that's a Sacred Symbols reference, to My Star Wars Show, be sure to join our Discord link as usual, top of the description. And in that Discord, you'll find a My Star Wars Show channel. I'm setting up a little bit of a Star Wars role so you can be added for future solicitations, because we've got a lot of great community solicitations here for the quotes today. But that's enough for the Discord plug. There's the other nonsense, like the video, ring the bell, subscribe to the channel. Less than half of our views come from subscribers, so click that button. It's literally free. Literally free. It doesn't harm you at all. In fact, it only enriches your life because you get great content like this. And we're here today, of course, to talk about great writing and Andrew, some bad writing, because I picked out some meme-worthy quotes also I want to share too. But we're here. We both have lists. We're just going to fire them back and forth and see where that takes us. So Andrew, do you want to start with your first quote?
Sure. I'm glad you said meme-worthy ones, because as I was going, like, my first half are all like quotes that like mean something to me, and then towards the end, I'm like, I just started going with like, well, you'll see. It's the meme ones. We'll see. We'll get there.
Right on.
The first one I really like is, let's see if you can. I'm sure you can figure it out, Abram, where this is from. Don't be too proud of this technological terror. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force.
Ooh, we're going for a New Hope.
That's right, sir. That's right.
Yeah, a little Death Star chatter.
Yeah, it's that that briefing room where you have like all the moths and stuff, and they're all kind of saber rattling and whatnot. And Vader's kind of like humbles them immediately. It's like this Death Star ain't shit. Like, it's nothing, right? He talks about how the reason I really like this quote is because like he kind of frames the idea of what it is, right? The ability to destroy a planet. It's still insignificant next to the power of the Force. And it's like, whoa, man, like, blowing up a planet's like not that big of a deal. It's like, what can you do with the Force? And so like this quote, I remember growing up watching A New Hope and the original trilogy. It always kind of just stuck with me because we don't really see what the limits of the Force are in like the original trilogy. But later on, it does come up again where, like, I mean, I'm not going to spoil. I want to save that one for later. But It kind of, in your mind, it kind of plants the seed that the Force is capable of way more like absurd, crazy things, right? It's not always destructive, though, right? It's not always destructive. Like later on in the sequel trilogies, we see how you can literally use the Force to bring somebody back to life, right?
Yeah.
I think the power of creation is much more impressive than destruction. So I love that. I love that quote. And also just because the way just Darth Vader just steps in is like he's just standing there like all cool, and everybody else is like, yeah, we got this weapon. Like, fear is going to keep control of the galaxy. Like, we got this. And he's like, nah, like he's kind of doing like the sweet summer child kind of thing. And so I love that quote. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that quote.
I'm actually going to express my thoughts through another similar quote, actually. And this is another quote from A New Hope. Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid. Said, of course, by the wonderful Han Solo aboard the Millennium Falcon. And the reason I think this quote goes nicely with yours is because a theme in A New Hope that I really like is like faith in the Force. Mm-hmm. And this is expressed through these quotes through, of course, I find your lack of faith disturbing. And in all these iconic things like, it's hard for me to put myself in that mindset because I was born 23 years after A New Hope came out, but like the concept in 77 of this just invisible force between everything and everyone would have felt so new if, the first time seeing Star Wars, brand new IP, brand new concept. So you as an audience member and the characters in the movies are kind of trying to, like wrestle with this idea of the Force. By the time I saw New Hope, like, yeah, the Force, that's the Force. Of course, I believe in the Force. Like, who really cares?
Of course.
Yeah. But I find the whole, when I really think about it, the whole arc of coming to trust in the Force. Of course, that's how the Death Star is destroyed. But that whole idea that even the characters in Star Wars universe don't really know what to make of this thing connecting all living beings. I find that really, really cool. And Han's skepticism of it, and Vader's sure of it. He's like, you guys have no fucking clue what you're talking about. The Force is crazy.
He's devout. He is
devout. And all Han knows is smuggling. So I really like these different perspectives that people in New Hope have on the Force.
Yeah, I think back to that. I don't know if it's that same scene, but that line where Luke takes off the blast shield thing, and he goes over to Han. He's like, "You don't really believe in the Force, do you?" He's like, "Kid, like I've been from one side of this guy to the other. I've seen all sorts of I've seen all sorts of stuff, but like there's nothing that can convince me that there's this one all powerful like." So it's interesting because to me it's very akin to like religion. I think in the real world where there's people who are like, oh, like it doesn't have to be Christianity, but it could be like you can insert any religion there. And people are like I know people who are like, oh, I believe in something higher because I've experienced like ghost or something, right?
Yeah.
And that would be Han would have the same reply. He's like, I've seen a lot of crazy things, right? I've seen a lot of crazy things, but nothing has convinced me that there's this one thing, right, that's responsible for all of it. And so like I agree with you. I love the idea of how I think what's that line in when the Moffs are together, like they're criticizing Vader, like before he starts choking, I forget the general's name, but he does like, oh, your devotion to that ancient religion, like you don't scare us with your sorceress ways, right? So it's like even to like on the bad guy side, like they know of the Force, but like second hand, kind of like they don't have like hands-on experience until Vader starts right. Then he puts the fear of the Force in them, and it's like, okay, all right, we get it, right? So.
Andrew, I actually want to use this opportunity to insert a community submission here because I think it fits nicely with our conversation. Firstly, I want to say our friend Daniel Navaroli shouted out, I find your lack of faith disturbing is one of his several quotes that we're going to cover. But our good friend, I think it was it Seth? No, this is from our good friend Shmuel, Dr. Michael Shmuelbius, as he goes by the Discord right now, who says, that's not how this Force works. That's not how the Force works, which is, of course, a great quote from The Force Awakens from Han, who's like scolding Finn about the nature of the Force. And I find that really interesting to sort of look at the way Han's character arc and his relationship with the Force changes across his life. So, yeah, fun one to shout out there. Nice pull, Shmuel. I've got some more Force Awakens quotes in store, too.
That's a good one, too. And there's one that I didn't write down, but now I think about like when he encounters Finn and Rey on the Falcon, and he tells them about the light side and the dark side. It's true, like all of it. And it's like, like man, you've come a long way from being a skeptic. Now he's like, obviously he's not like Force sensitive, but he's like devout. He knows now. Is it my turn?
Your turn.
This one I like this one a lot because I feel like it's applicable to real life. It says fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Of course, said by Yoda in Phantom Menace, right? He chastises young Anakin where he says, "Are you afraid?" He's like, "No, sir, I'm not afraid." He's like, "See through you, we do." And he's like, "I'm not." And he's like, and then that's when he says a quote and stuff. And what I think, I mean, obviously there's context for this quote within the movie, but I think there is some real life application here where I think you could substitute fear almost for like, I guess, an extension of fear of the unknown or fear of different or unfamiliar, right?
Definitely.
If we look at the real world, there's a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of anxiety, I would say, especially right now with global tension and stuff, where people in general, whether it's here at home with, not to get political, but with other races or other preferences of of a sexual nature or stuff like that, there's a lot of fear, right? Fear, things that you don't understand, things you can't comprehend, and that scares people, right? And so when the fear leads to anger, right, people get upset, they start to push for some kind of change or something, right? And then eventually that hate leads to the suffering, right? On both sides, the people who are perpetuating the hate and also the people who are the victims of it. So very, Star Wars doesn't get too deep, but occasionally it does. And I think that's kind of one of the more, one of those things that it's borderline meme, because I do see memes about like that. There's like that little format with the 4 boxes and like the changes and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's something that I think is very applicable outside of Star Wars, and it's always kind of just stuck with me ever since. So,
I mean, I think a lot of the Jedi teachings in general are far more like apt and actually useful to your life than people I think give them credit for. Like, Star Wars philosophy is not especially robust, but as you're saying, it does give you something to think about. And even I think in a movie like Phantom Menace that provokes less thought than maybe some of the other Star Wars films, it still has a little something in there. I'm going to hit you with Phantom Menace quote, which swings the other direction entirely, and that is, now this is pod racing, said, of course, by young Anakin as he is flying a Naboo starfighter through one of the Trade Federation. It's one of their command ships that controls all the battle droids down on Naboo. Of course, we see him go pod racing, we see him beat Sebulba and everything, but then we see him zip through the skies and proclaim that this is pod racing, not the Bunta Eve rally or whatever it's called. And it's just so funny. Like I think that a lot of the prequel dialogue that gets memed is just bad dialogue. But I think what's kind of fun about now this is pod racing is that it is just goofy, Like I don't think it's a terrible line because the entire situation is so absurd. Anakin is can barely see over in the controls in the Naboo starfighter. He's 10 and he's flying around in there. So I think there's some good quotables from there that don't just stem from this is shitty, and you can certainly make the case that this is all a terrible sequence, and you can, but I think also with some of the stuff in the prequels, you just have to accept that it's fun and it's hokey and it's weird, and I think that that Anakin's flight to defeat the entire battle droid army as the Gungans are throwing CGI marbles at each other, it's like when you accept it, now this is pod racing is pretty funny.
It is. I thought for a second you were going to go with let's try spinning. That's a good trick. I thought you were going to.
That's a really good one. Yes.
All right. I just remember it again right now, just clearly because I was playing that level in Lego Star Wars the other day. So.
Oh, nice.
All right. This one again. So most of mine are a little more serious, a little more reflective, and then as I go on, they'll become a little sillier. So
right on.
In the first half, death is a natural part of life. Rejoice for those around you who transform into the Force. Mourn them, do not. Miss them, do not. So here is Master Yoda for the only time I think we see in the movie where he's actually consoling or trying to give advice to Anakin in Revenge of the Sith, right? Anakin has these Force visions of Padme dying. He actually does a sensible thing of going to somebody who might be able to interpret them or at least give him some kind of advice of what to do. And as we know, the downfall of Anakin is that he's not willing to lose things in his life, whether it's his mother or in this case now his wife, right? Where losing things is just unacceptable to him, and it completely goes against whatever he thinks he can do or whatever. And so this one, I think the mourn them do not part probably is not as adequate. I think we all have to mourn, where it's okay to just deal and feel with your emotions, but the idea of acceptance that not everything is forever, right? There's another quote later on with Yoda where he says forever sleep. In I think it's in Return of the Jedi, he says about he comes to terms with not everything is forever, and that's kind of what makes life beautiful in a way, is that you enjoy things or you get to experience things while you're alive. And then the curtain fall at the end, the dying, that allows you to kind of make those things matter, right? The coming to terms with you can't change everything that, you can't prevent bad things from happening. You kind of have to just accept them and live with them. And you have to let go of those attachments, because if you don't let go of those attachments, it's just going to fester. You're just going to harbor those feelings, and it's going to consume you, and you're not going to be able to live your life in the moment that you're living. So I think that's, again, a lot of Yoda's a wise ass. He's a really smart ass, but in a way that makes sense, where a lot of his quotes are that's such a good one. It's such a good one. So I haven't lost anybody in my life since I was 10. My grandmother passed away when I was 10, but I always think when I get to that part of the movie in Revenge of the Sith and I get hit with that quote, I think of man, that's good advice. You have to kind of just come to terms with as you get older, you get to a point where you start losing things and just stop gaining things, right? The people in your life and stuff, you have to come to terms with that. And I don't know. I think it's a very good lesson for life overall.
Yeah, I agree with you again, but I think what's interesting is the part you're talking about how Yoda says don't mourn, right? And I think something I've come to really like about Star Wars material is the way that it's like it sort of interrogates the very rigid Jedi lifestyle a little bit more. Like we see in that's part of the reason why I love KOTOR, for instance, the ways that they sort of play with the dogma of the Jedi and the dogma of the Sith, and the ways that the sequel trilogies do that also. Like I like the ways that stuff gets explored. So as I returned a lot of the Star Wars into, I'm like, the Jedi, maybe some of this stuff with Anakin could have been prevented if like Jedi were just allowed to marry, like what would be different about the Jedi Order if there was a little bit more nuance in how people could interact? Because all these Jedi are having affairs. Everybody knows that. Obi-Wan is having an affair with that woman from Mandalore. I forget her name. Anakin and Padme. Was it Satine? Yes, no, it is. It definitely is.
Close to that.
It definitely is. But no, I agree with you. I think that's another lovely Yoda quote. I want to bring up my favorite quote in the entire Star Wars series, because I think it pairs nicely with this one and what I was just saying. This comes from The Last Jedi. The Empire, your parents, the Resistance, the Sith, the Jedi. Let the past die. Kill it if you have to.
That was one of mine.
Yes. I thought it might be, so I wanted to swoop it up before you got there. But
good choice.
Said by Kylo Ren to Rey after the big fight against the Praetorian Guard after Snoke is killed, and there's this moment when the galaxy can maybe be recreated, but somebody has to budge, and nobody budges. But this concept of let the past die, kill it if you have to, I think is really fascinating in just the general world of Star Wars, not only in universe, because small galaxy syndrome, all that stuff, but the sort of meta discussions around Star Wars. Because a real life quote that was unearthed in my knowledge, because it's been out there for years now, obviously, but when Last Jedi was coming out, Rian Johnson was asked and like replied to the prompt of like, why do you keep telling Star Wars stories? Isn't just going to be the same thing over and over again? And he said something to the effect of like, if Star Wars is the same things over and over again, it's going to get tired. But it's by reinvention and by returning to these principles and these themes and recontextualizing them to find new stories, and you get like a fresh appreciation for Star Wars. And I think Kylo Ren very succinctly explains where I think the best Star Wars storytelling comes from, and that's by letting the past die, killing it if you have to, or doing something new. So I've always found that quote to be very apt about both. I love its kind of challenge to the idea of the Jedi Order and in the actual context of the film, but on a meta level, I love sort of what Rian Johnson is saying about Star Wars storytelling.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I mean, that's very apparent by the end of Rise of Skywalker, right? Where like, there's no more Skywalkers, right? Like the whole line is dead. And like even with the First Order, like there's no one ever says, like when they talk about the Sith, like Snoke and Kylo, they don't see themselves as like a continuation of that. They talk about the Sith as like that's a separate faction. That's like a thing in the past. Like we don't deal with that anymore. I think only just Palpatine in Rise of Skywalker mentions it again, but we see how that turns out anyways. But like this idea of like abandoning like the old order of things, right? This the kind of, I mean, one of my favorite quotes that I've ever heard was that traditions are peer pressure by dead people. And that's kind of like what this is, where like we don't have to do like the Jedi thing. We don't have to reinvent the wheel again, like with the Sith or whatever. And they kind of get into that in the EU, sort of like one of the last story arcs in the EU was where the pretty much the Republic turns against any Force user. I think I talked to you about this before, where like Sith, Jedi, Dark Jedi, whatever it is. It's like we're getting rid of this thing that because your petty like feud has influenced like politics of the rest of the galaxy for like thousands of years. Like, we're just gonna get rid of you because we've outgrown the need of Jedi and Sith and stuff. So in Star Wars, I think that makes sense to kind of get past that. And like, well, The Last Jedi is not like my favorite Star Wars movie. I do give Ryan. I remember you linked that quote the other day. So I agree with that. I do think you have to mix it up. And we've even talked about that ourselves, how we kind of want, you don't have to put Jedi in everything. That's okay to delve and poke into like other facets of Star Wars. So I do like that quote. I had it down, so I'm gonna have to scratch that one off now for myself. But
just a little bonus. I did pull up the direct Rian Johnson quote. It's a little bonus quote for you. Outside of the universe, Rian Johnson said, "When people ask me, don't you think people are going to get sick of Star Wars movies? To me, that question indicates that they're thinking of Star Wars movies as a museum exhibit that is wheeled out once a year so that you can say, oh, I love that thing. Oh, I remember that thing. And yes, if Star Wars is that, people are going to get sick of it really quickly. But if Star Wars are great new movies that are exciting and fresh and that challenge you and surprise you and make you feel things and engage you in the ways that those original movies did, but always taking you to new places, both in the galaxy and emotionally, that's never going to get old. That's what it's all about. So
absolutely, I agree. Yeah,
wish he was getting this trilogy, but that is all but a memory of the past.
And then somebody else too, right? There was I forgot her name. She had like a Rogue Squadron movie. I don't know that stuff.
Oh, Patty Jenkins.
There you go.
Famed director of Wonder Woman and infamous director of Wonder Woman 1984.
We'll see. I don't know if any of that stuff gets picked up, but
I think the movie was on the schedule.
That's a great one, Abrams. So I think you can also apply that to just real life, where like I mentioned how there's, I feel like a lot of things just kind of outgrow their use after a time. Like things are allowed to end. I remember somebody their response to Kingdom Hearts 4 being announced today was like, why aren't like franchises or series just allowed to just end? And it's like, there is a time where I think something should be shelved, at least if not permanently, then at least for a long time. So I agree with Kylo Ren in that case that some things have to be killed. Not literally, but I digress. All right, next one I have. And I think this is my favorite one of the entire series.
Okay.
It might be, or for sure top two. Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
Yes.
Obi-Wan said to, obviously, Luke, like I just said, in Return of the Jedi, I want to say.
Yes, because it's in the context of like his family, learning about his family
afterwards of Darth Vader, right? Because he says, you told me like Darth Vader killed my father.
Yeah.
And he's like, from a certain point of view. And then Luke's like pissed off, like a certain point of view. He's like, he sits him down the log, and then it has that exchange with him, right? Where, and I think this is absolutely rings true, I think, in many things outside of Star Wars, where certain things might be phrased or worded, and some people take things to be literal or metaphorical. But it is your perspective of like, if you can expand this to say, I think you could apply this to like geopolitics or stuff in the world where someone, they said that, what's that saying, that someone's terrorist is another person's freedom writer, right? It's like whoever's writing the story, whoever has the whoever is able to pen the narrative of any given conflict is basically just giving their account of things. And then those same account of things from a different perspective are equally true, but they kind of like, contradict each other, right? So I love that phrase. I just love that quote because it's kind of like he's being a little kind of like a smart ass to Luke in a way, where he's like, I didn't lie to you. It's like, you just took what I said and ran with it, right? And then if you go back to like the actual context where he talks about it, it's like his father, he's like, oh, like a young Jedi turned to the dark side, killed your father. And it's like, so like what I said was true, from like he killed him in the sense that the old personality was discarded, right? And this new personality takes over. So I feel like that's very applicable to real life in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the whole from a certain point of view is just like taking on a life of its own, and like Star Wars criticism. There's all kinds of, I think there's very famous, what is it, a book from a certain point of view, like revisiting the original trilogy and everything. It really, I agree with you. It's really a great quote. And again, it's more of that sort of wacky Jedi stuff that I think is fun to go back and interrogate. Like, I mean, Ben Kenobi basically lied to him. But sort of the unraveling of that, I think, is cool. And by the way, it's more evidence that Return of the Jedi is a well-written movie. I'm a big Red Letter Media fan, but I was watching them like basically tear apart Return of the Jedi the other day, like listen to they did like a movie commentary for it. And I get that it's
hate or what?
Yeah, like that it's derivative of what came before, and it's not as bold as Empire in terms of thematics or in terms of plot line and everything. But I really maintain that Return of the Jedi is fantastic. It's still my favorite Star Wars movie. Probably always will be, but I digress. I'm not sure I have a quote that's going to link into that one. So I'm just going to go with another Ben Kenobi quote that I really like. And it's going to take us back to A New Hope. Mos Eisley Spaceport. You'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. I love that quote so much.
It's a good one.
First of all, it's incredibly iconic. I think A New Hope is definitely the most quotable Star Wars movie. But the notion of the scum and villainy is one of my favorite parts of Star Wars. I've always liked the characters that sort of fall between the cracks. When I was a kid, I was always some of my favorite action figures I'd have would just be like random Star Wars like aliens or background characters, whatever. Mm-hmm. To most people, they would be like the peg warmers, like to collectors, but like nobody wants these. But I was really interested in those characters that were just like they weird, like the aliens and the regular human characters that were in the background. Mm-hmm. It's also interesting to me the idea that Star Wars is full of all of these scoundrels and everything, and Mos Eisley becomes this sort of nexus of it all, and I like the depth of that. It's very, very cool. Now I would never want to be in Mos Eisley Cantina, but as an observer from my couch on the TV, I love seeing all the aliens. I think it's part of what makes Star Wars so much fun.
I agree with you, Gabriel. That's some of my favorite stuff in Star Wars is like the world building, right?
Yeah.
We're like with Obi-Wan telling us like you'll never find that, more wretched high of scum and villainy. It's like it's already putting like the frame of reference. It's like, oh, like this is like a seedy, bad part of town. And like, I mean, we go in and like we already have things that are being like built out for us. The whole like we don't allow their kind, like their kind are not allowed here. And it's like, oh, there's no droids are like allowed. And it's like why are they not allowed? Like, oh, there must be something behind that, right? Like,
yeah,
like why are they not how to have droids? I'm thinking because they don't drink and they're just taking up space. Therefore, it's kind of like, it's like why you have a cover charge at a club and stuff. So you're not just taking up space. I'm assuming, I don't know, maybe there's a history there with droids kind of like, I don't know, being used for nefarious things. I don't know, but I love that. So like the whole, we get in there, we see it. Like I always remember like that first shot where it's nothing and just like the head pops up of the alien looking inside. It's like I don't know I forget what type it is, but it has like these big kind of like eyes. It just pops up. We see some women in some like black wigs, like they're kind of like, I don't know if it's like hookah or they have like some kind of incense.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is they're doing. And we just see people, there's like the Cantina band iconically just doing their own thing, and everybody's just like hustle and bustle and looking for a pilot, and he doesn't like you either. And like all this stuff that happens there is just kind of like we're wanted on systems or whatever. And it's like, what did they do?
Yeah.
What did they do to earn that rep? And it's just like your mind kind of just fills in the blanks sort of in a way. And I think that's like the very fun part of Star Wars is just like it's a living, breathing like universe.
Definitely.
And so you saying like the hive in the sky. I mean, I've seen that reference in so many things. Like I think there was a bar, or was it? I know for a fact there's a bar out there somewhere in the US it's called like Scum and Villainy or something like that. And it's just it's like one of those things that's permeated into like outside like meme, like kind of like meme culture outside of just Star Wars. So you're right, it's one of the most iconic lines, definitely. And it's funny too because it's just kind of just said, like it's just said, and then we just move on.
Yeah.
And there's not like a deep meaning behind it, but there is a lot of like subtext like it hangs there. So good choice, Sam. Good choice. Next one for me. Another Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's getting a lot of these. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can imagine.
Another of Daniel's quotes too.
Oh, that's right. I think, yeah. I think for sure. Yeah, Mr. Navaroli did say that one. So what I love about this one, obviously we get the payoff for that later, right? He becomes a Force ghost and he guides Luke pretty much on this path of Jedihood until the Return of the Jedi, right? But I also like this because it kind of, again, it's one of those things that has like a double meaning where if you apply it to real life, it's basically martyrdom in a way.
Definitely.
You can kill a person, but you can't kill an idea. At least not the same, not as easily, right? And so like that of him saying like where we have Obi-Wan puts up his saber and like he knows he can't win against Vader, right? So he's gonna give his death meaning. It's gonna serve as the catalyst to make Luke kind of spur him on to, become a Jedi, follow this path, right? Because up until that point, right, Obi-Wan says like, you have to come along with me, right? I'm gonna go on this mission. I can't do this alone. We're gonna rescue this princess, and then it kind of like, we don't really know what Luke's plan beyond that is, right? He's just kind of tagging along. Obi-Wan's death kind of now redirects Luke's path into, now he has to join in with this rebellion to kind of almost, again, this is the thing with the Jedi and the Sith, almost kind of like to avenge Obi-Wan, kind of dark side motive, sort of.
Yeah.
Not quite clearly. But I just like this because it is, obviously it's been like kind of like memed also and like other stuff too, where it's like, strike me down. Like, right. A lot of like parodies and stuff of that pop up. But I just like it from a metaphorical standpoint, where the death and the idea of living beyond your physical body and kind of stuff like that stuff, a message, all that stuff is very powerful, just meaning. So I love that.
I think you're definitely right. And I think it's reinforced by the fact that we don't see Obi-Wan's body. He just disappears, and it's just a robe left behind. Mm-hmm. So I think it really is about the idea of his death. Basically in the visuals of the narrative, that's what they reinforce. And I think you're completely right. And I've also another cross trilogy thing I've loved is, old Ben Kenobi's Force Ghost guides Luke, and then it's Luke's life ends as a Force projection too, using his energy to, Force project against Kylo, distract him so everyone can escape out the backside of the crate base. I think, again, going back to what Rian Johnson says, these sort of like smart character payoffs and sort of unexpected arcs, conclusions that I really like. So a great moment that reverberates in the series and beyond. Let me hit you with, I'm going to hit you with a quote from the audience, because I like this one quite a bit. All right. This one comes from Seth, who says, quote, "So this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause." I was reading ahead to the L of applause. "So this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause," from Padme Amidala, of course. This is from the end of Revenge of the Sith, as we sort of witness in real time the dissolution of the Galactic Senate and the Emperor's like totalitarian rise to complete power, of course, expressed a little bit less subtly through the "I am the Senate" line, as Palpatine fights off the assassination attempt on his life. But what I find so compelling about this quote, and I'm glad Seth brought it up, is just, again, going back to your sort of real world connotations, the sort of notion that all of these people are complicit in enabling their own downfall, their own lack of agency and power, right, through sort of like this charismatic leader. You can apply widely, is all I'll say on that front. But I think it's a really pertinent moment. Again, in the universe of Star Wars and beyond. And so I've always found Revenge of the Sith to just be a lot smarter than I think some people give it credit for, because there is a lot of goofy shit in that movie. But there's also this really serious and well executed slow burn of, well, not only in the sense of the writing sense, but the slow literal burn of the sort of tenets of Republic society. So I always love that idea that Padme was sitting there powerless, like in that huge Senate room with all of those floating chairs, like just thousands and thousands of people from every system represented there, and just this deafening applause as Palpatine's just lying to him. That's a really powerful scene, I think.
I agree. That is what I love that scene. It kind of reminds me of, just to step out of Star Wars for a brief second, I think of the Michael Caine's line in Dark Knight, where it's like, in their desperation, they turned to a man they didn't understand. And it's kind of like that too, where like Palpatine, I think at the start of Clone Wars, at the Attack of the Clones, right? They mentioned like, hey, like he's already been in power as senator for like as Grand Supreme Chancellor for like a long time already. Like, and he manufactures this crisis, right? A kind of crisis to gain these emergency powers, like very like Roman Caesar-esque, like Julius Caesar-esque. And now he's in this situation now where like, hey, like we ended this war, and like, but like if we want to avoid these situations, we want a more stable and secure society, right? He says like, we're gonna only use the powers, the emergency powers you've granted me to now turn this into a totalitarian state where like there's less freedom, but like you're much more secure, right? There's no more like enemies at the gates, right? There's like, that's it. But you're like, and I think, oh my God, this reminds me of so many quotes. I think of, you've heard the Benjamin Franklin one about any society that hands over freedom for security will have neither, right? And it's kind of, and we see that in the original trilogy now, right? Where like now with no exterior enemies, like the focus now inward on the members of the Republic and enslaving like Wookiees and just becoming totalitarian. And absolutely, I think it's very like how Padme, and we have what's his name,
Bail Organa,
or Bail's Organa, and like all these Mon Mothma, and they're all kind of just like seeing like, oh shoot, like we've been like warning about this since like Attack of the Clones era. Like even when Padme's having a conversation with Anakin about like Anakin says, oh well, they should be made to agree, and it's like how do you do that? He's like, oh, was by someone powerful. He's like, you? It's like, oh no, like I'm much too afraid of it. He has like the whole playful thing, right? But we kind of get those little tidbits of Anakin's like totalitarian leanings, right? So the whole thing with because he's been shaped by the Republic, which did nothing good for him or the other slaves, right? So he kind of has a little understanding there. But that's a great one. Abram and who? Oh yeah, Seth. Right? Seth. So I had that one down too. So now I have to mark that one off now. For the next one, I was gonna do the Kylo Ren one. We already said that. For my ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. I think Empire is my favorite because of so many great lines from Yoda. I love this idea of like, I think this comes right after no, this isn't after he tries to lift the X-Wing. Is it? No, I forget where exactly this comes from, but it's that little montage of where he's training at Luke. Luke's like jumping, doing like lifting rocks with his mind and all that stuff. And I love how we get like a very like Obi-Wan kind of hints. He kind of gives us the blueprint, right? He talks about it's like, what is the Force? The Force is like it's a not net. What does he say? It's some kind of connection, right? Created by all living things and stuff, right? But here Yoda kind of elaborates further. Oh, this is what part where he says, oh, this is right after he says, judge me by my size, do you? And then that's when he goes into this. He's like, he says, the Force is my ally. And we kind of get an idea of what I love about the Force, the way it's explained this way, kind of like spiritually, is that even if you're religious or not religious, the Force is kind of a plug-in where it's a variable where you can just plug in any system of belief you kind of have. Yeah. And it's not that different. For example, like I have a very Christian upbringing, and for me, and as a kid, like the Force, the way it was, like I understood it, was almost kind of like a substitute in a way for Christianity, where it's like life, like creation, and all the beauty in the world. Like it's these things that kind of feed back into it, creation and life and essence in that. But you could probably plug it in if you're not religious. Like you can just apply that to nature or any other kind of spiritual religious system that you have. And I like how malleable it is, because there's like influences of like Buddhism, there's influences of like Sikhism, and even like Chi and stuff like that. Like everything in the world, even Shintoism in a way, where everything has, like he says, between me and the rock, the tree, and you, like it's such a cool like system of belief to just have this like all-encompassing force, and that it's just inhabits all the space in between. And it's like there's something beautiful and reassuring about that. I don't know. It's one of those things that kind of always just stuck with me.
It's very natural. I like your idea of like plugging in nature, because like a concept in like nature writing that I found really interesting is the concept of the sublime, or like being a person in nature and seeing, it could be a mountain range or a valley or an ocean in front of you that kind of makes you recognize your small scale in comparison to the natural world around you, and feeling almost this fear-driven awe of like, I'm nothing, but not in a way that puts you down, but kind of like unlocks your mind to the idea that like there is so much out there around me. But like a core concept of the notion of the sublime is like that fear of it's insurmountable. It's some sort of danger, right? And what I like about the idea of the force is it kind of flips it on its head. It still gives you this appreciation, this like widening of your understanding, but it's more supportive. It's like you can be enveloped in the force, and that's a good thing. You know, it's not the sublime where there's this feeling of fear tinging your awe. It's just this like deeper understanding. And I think that's really cool. It's very, very cool.
I think of how like it's a throwaway line. I think at the start of Phantom Menace where Qui-Gon kind of chastises Obi-Wan about being here and now kind of thing, and then Obi-Wan's like, well, Master Yoda told me to be mindful of the future, and he's like yes, but not at the expense of like the present, like the living force. And it's like it's so cool because I remember it. He says it's Obi-Wan calls it a energy field, I think he calls it, or something like that energy field. But just the idea of like it's like very feng shui, and like it's really just a stand-in for like whatever system or whatever belief system you kind of wanted. And I think that's kind of lends itself well to the appeal of Star Wars worldwide, because it's not hardcore like ramming like God and the devil, right? It's like there, it's kind of in there, but it's not so concrete. It's not so like, it's not driving it into you. You're allowed to kind of just like plug in just about any system of belief, because I mean, the force is basically just universal different just aspects of religions kind of just thrown in together in a way that it just applies very loosely and vaguely to everything. So
and that's why Kyle is right, because there's all this flexibility and nuance in the Force, but then you have the Jedi and the Sith, and they are diametrically opposed, as usual. Adam Driver just on top of things. But I'm gonna give a related quote. This is from a film I didn't expect to be pulling quotes from, but that's Rogue One. This quote is, "I'm one with the Force is with me," of course, from Chirrut Imwe, who is a really, really interesting character. Because we were having this conversation about like we don't want to see as many Jedi sometimes. Like you can tell a narrative without Jedi, but this is really an interesting way to tell a narrative without Jedi, but still the Force, because Chirrut is some kind of warrior, blind, connected very deeply to the Force, but not a Jedi in the traditional sense, right?
Right.
And so what's so cool is like we see these sequences in Rogue One where he's walking out of the battlefield and just repeating this mantra to himself. It's just like blaster fire misses him and everything. Like it's first of all, it's kind of campy and cool, but I think it also reinforces like this belief in the Force is going to surround you and blanket you and protect you. I think it's maybe the most visually obvious sort of affirmation of maybe you should believe in the Force. Maybe Han is really, really wrong when he talks in A New Hope. Maybe you'd much rather have that hokey religion. And I just think Chirrut is a really cool way to like visualize that, and just visualize Jedi or Force sensitive storytelling without Jedi.
Yeah, and then there's that again, that thing we talked about how like the cool thing about the Force again is like the religious ties. Like it's not like restricted to just one specific view, right? Like you mentioned, like Chirrut, he's not a Jedi. He's like something of the wills, right? Like a guardian of the will or something like some kind of guard. Sorry, my neighbor's being annoying with his exhaust. I don't know if you heard that or not, probably did. Anyways, but yeah, it's like another aspect of the Force, right? It's just like all these a certain point of view of the Force, one might say, and we just have we have that aspect. You're right, like he just walks in and just like all the shots avoid him, and it kind of reminds me of I'm trying to remember what was that one movie. I can't remember it, but it was something too. It was like mysticism with like someone like shoot, I can't remember what it was. Forget it. Not important. But anyways, yeah. I love that. That's a good one, Abram. That's a good one. I hope you don't hear that. You probably do, but
it's all good.
Okay.
A little bit of audio filtering.
Yeah. All right. Next one. And I'm down to my last two because two of them have already been perfect for me. And this is I love you. I know.
This is the next one I was going to pull.
Smug and charismatic answer that is. I know. What a badass. Of course, that's said by Han as he's going down into the not carbonite.
Yeah.
Oh, it is okay. The carbonite, the chamber and he's going to be frozen basically. And I remember watching the behind the scenes for like the narration and stuff for Empire Strikes Back, and they had like the longest time trying to figure out like what should Han say, right? Does he say "I love you too"? And it's like, no, that's not really Han. He's not that sappy. He's not like, he's not. He doesn't wear his emotions on his sleeve like that. And it's like, what's a good answer? Then they finally settled like, I know, like that's the line, and that's the line. And I've seen that in so much. Abram, like I have my best friend and his wife, not even huge Star Wars fans. They kind of like Star Wars. They each have like half of a heart pendant, and one of them says, hers says "I love you," and his says "I know."
That's cool.
Side. And it's like I've seen this in Valentine cards. I've seen this on a cake before, not in person, but like online. And it's just like that is one of those lines. That's one of those instances where like less is more, because you're just letting like the context do all the heavy lifting outside of just those two words, "I know." And it's just, I think someone was in Dave or someone mentioned it too in the Discord. I forgot who.
Yeah, Daniel did. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, not Dave. Daniel. I always get confused. Navarole. I just call him that. Navarole. And so that's like one of those lines that's just like, even if you're not a huge Star Wars fan, kind of like how the Force be with you, like that's one of those things like you just know, like that's a Han ass thing to say right there.
Yeah, I love it. I also love the sight gag for it in Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker saga. Han basically is put into like a refrigerator and the door swings shut and there's like fridge magnets to say "I love you" and "I know" on the fridge. Like,
oh, that's cute.
Which is really cute. No, this is the sort of line that I hear and it's like, fuck, that's cool. There was this so going around on film Twitter for a while, which I'm on the periphery of, when WandaVision was new, there's that terribly hammy line about like something about like what is grief if not like love subsiding, whatever.
Love that line?
No.
How's that hammy? What is love if not shoot? What is grief if not love persevering, right?
It's something like that. I think it feels very well. Also, I haven't seen WandaVision, so maybe it would feel less Hallmark cardy if I'd actually seen the show, not the screen grab. But I think the other thing that started me from it is like there's people on there's this fucking crazy viral tweet of someone retweeting and being like, and every screenwriter is muttered an irreverent "oh fuck" when they heard that line. But that's what I actually think when I think about that line, because that is just like, that is a line that perfectly understands its characters. And as you're saying, it's that subtext that's so fun. And I really think that obviously "May the Force be with you," most quotable line in all Star Wars. Yeah. But this one is really close. This is like top 5 for sure. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of great banter, especially just in that one film. Between Han and Leia, like when they're in Echo Base and she's calling him a scruffy looking nerf herder and everything. It's all, or maybe that's New Hope, but when she's giving him shit, they're trying to hit on each other. Like their relationship, I think, is so fun, and that's just like Han never, like, maybe he's gonna be thought out, maybe he's not, but fuck it, that's what he's gonna say to her, and that's just perfect. It's just perfect.
Yeah, you're right. Because I'm thinking of all the stuff leading up to that, where he's like, "I'd sooner kiss a Wookiee." Well, I couldn't arrange that. And then later on, when they're inside of the asteroid, I forget, I don't know what the space worm thing is called, but it's like he's like, "Oh, yeah, you need someone like a little more like roguish in your life, like someone like something like that, like something like that." And he's just like man, he's just like so smooth. I mean, he stumbles. Of course, he stumbles. He's Han. He kind of. Like she kisses Luke, and like Han's kind of just like he's at a loss for words, right? He's kind of out of his depth there, but like man, like that's like one of those moments where whoever, like when they came up with that and they were like, yes, like that's it, like they understood the assignment with Han on that one. So awesome one.
Okay, that makes it my turn, right? Yeah, because you pulled that one. Okay, I am going to go for. This is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to read a dialogue exchange for you.
Okay, yeah. There's no hard rules here. Go ahead.
Darth Vader says, "Luke, help me take this mask off." Luke replies, "But you'll die." Darth Vader says, "Nothing can stop that now. Just for once, let me look on you with my own eyes." Of course, this is after Palpatine has been chucked down the exhaust vent or whatever it is, and Vader's been electrocuted and he's gonna die. His hand's been chopped off. Luke's fucking skeleton is rattling inside of his body because he's been force electrocuted for so long. And there's this moment as the Death Star is going, second Death Star is going down. We're on Imperial shuttle. The ramp is unfolded, and we're bringing
ignoring them too, which is
everybody's running around the hangar and like, oh, here's Darth Vader like being like dragged out by Luke. He takes the mask off, and we see for the first time this man who not only like is obviously old and scarred, but not in the way that Palpatine is. Like Palpatine is, his face is insidious, like when it's all folded and awful and those beady eyes. But Vader's face is actually just like kind of sympathetic. Like he looks very plain. Yeah, he does not look very scary at all with that mask off. And I think it is just such an amazing final emotional note between them. It is like the perfect way to the action of throwing Palpatine over the railing, and then the sort of emotional, return to the light side afterwards. It's just so perfectly executed. And the idea that like this mask, Vader, the body that is Darth Vader, was literally like a sarcophagus over Anakin Skywalker, and removing that, so he can use not just see him without the mask on, but to see through his own eyes. I think that's really a beautiful way to illustrate, like, as Luke was saying, there's good in him, I can see it. And now Vader, becoming Anakin, literally can use his eyes to see that light again in his son. I think it is the perfect death for Darth Vader.
Absolutely. I do love that scene. He has like these just like sad, kind of like baleful eyes. And like, yeah, you're right. He looks like old, but not obviously not as old as the Emperor, because we've seen how young he was in comparison to the Emperor. But like he does have like he's not wrinkly. The parts that are not like burnt are like smoothed over and stuff and that. And like of course he's like disfigured. He has like lumps missing and stuff. But like you're right. He has just like this part, and like when he takes off the helmet, like he's not Darth Vader anymore, right? He's not imposing. He's not intimidating. And then I thought you were going to keep going with that even to the part where he says like, oh, I can save you. And he's like, you already have, right? That part at the end, you already have, right? Like obviously I'm dying, but like you brought more importantly, he brought back like the best part of him, right? He brought him back to the light side, right? Which matters way more than his corporeal physical form, right? And so you're absolutely right, Abram. I forgot to put that one down, but yeah, I'm glad one of us did. I was worried about there being a lot of overlap. I'm glad you put that one down, because that is a very powerful moment. And I'm starting to see what you mean now about Return of the Jedi having like really great great dialogue too. So
nub yub
Utini. I love that part in Lego Star Wars where Darth Maul, he's in the Senate with the Jawa, and he's like Utini. But I don't know if you put this one down, but just an honorable mention before I get to my last one. I love in Return of the Jedi when they're taking out on Jabba's sail barge, and Luke just says like, I grew up here, and then Han's like, you're gonna die here. Convenient. Like I just love, like, even in a moment like that, like Han's like, I can still get a joke out. Even when things are grim. I just love that line delivery. So, okay, my actual one though, the last one I have here. Hello there.
Of course.
That's it. Hello. I think more than anything, especially in the last few years, I think that's the one line that is definitely memed in every single Discord server I am in. So and so has joined. I hope you brought pizza. Hello there. That's like the first thing that usually pops up is Obi-Wan he drops down from like the little hangar into the middle of all these droids, and just like he just stands up all confidently, hello there, and just announce like I'm so cool, I can announce my presence even though I have to jump on you. And I just love that, just because it's so simple, but I feel like it's one of those things where if you say it to somebody, even if you don't really know them, they'll get the reference, they'll understand it, because it's just he took those two simple words and just kind of made them a thing. And I just love that phrase, because I see it like parodied in so many things. And I think it's up there too with like may the force be with you kind of thing, but it's much more cheesy, and it's almost kind of, to some people, I think some people might find it kind of cringy just because it's just overdone, but I could not do this without mentioning that one. So
the question, of course, Andrew, it's a two-parter. You only have to answer part B if you answer part A in a particular way. Part A, will Obi-Wan say hello there in Kenobi? B, if yes, when?
I don't know the when. I feel like it's a given. You
think he's gonna say it?
Right? They have to. I think they have to do that. I mean, even in the Spider-Man film, they did the pointing of the things,
yes.
Right? I feel like now, like with most, like, people involved in movies are much more like in tune with fan bases and stuff. I think you kind of have to do that. When he's gonna do it, I hope it's in a moment that's not too serious, or else that's kind of gonna undercut it, I think, kind of humor. So I hope he uses it kind of in an appropriate setting where it's not like a do or die kind of situation. Maybe he meets a character, or he reunites with a past friend or something, and then that would be a good time, I think. Hopefully he uses it like not so ironically.
Yeah, I think he's gonna say it. I almost just don't want him to say it, for the reason being that it's so meta that there's no way to make it natural. That's my thought about that. What I do hope is premiere time. Ewan McGregor is, I don't know if there's gonna be like a carpet premiere I don't know if they do that for shows, but Ewan is either like on a carpet, or he's like giving the opening remarks on a live stream, and he pops in and goes, hello there. I think that's where it fits so perfectly, but they're probably gonna put it in the show.
You want him to do like the little wink at the camera kind of thing?
No. If he says it in the show, he might as well. I'm going to throw out one more also. This is another Last Jedi quote. I need someone to show me my place in all of this, from Rey. Saying this, if you listen to this video sort of contemporaneous to its launch, you probably heard this. You're playing Lego Star Wars, because
every single time I turn it on,
I don't really know why, frankly. That's the quote that is said. But nonetheless, I wanted to shout it out because, of course, it's in these conversations with Luke on Octo when she shows up. Is that how you say it? Achto, whatever. So she shows up there and she's talking to Luke, and I've said it in the show multiple times. I love Rey. I think Rey's a wonderful character, and I really like her hunt for identity, because ultimately, identity is maybe it's I think on a plot level perhaps the most central recurrent theme in Star Wars. Of course, the Skywalker saga, understanding your family ties and these lineages and what they mean, and the identity of Jedi, the identity of Sith, and all of this, and the idea that we sort of follow Rey as this sort of ambiguous figure trying to figure out what's my place in all of this. I think part of what I like about Rey is that she sort of as you've been doing, moving beyond Star Wars, she kind of prompts you to wonder, what's my place in wherever I am? What's my place here on campus? What's my place in my life moving forward? This sort of unknowing I find to be really compelling. And I like this idea that Rey just turning everywhere for the answer. I love the cave, and where we see just Rey after Rey after Rey after Rey. That's such a cool visual representation with these conversations with Luke too, that I love Rey's questioning. I wish the question had a different answer.
Yes, but
I really love that concept.
Yeah, I'm annoyed by that too, just because of what was cause say the longing you search for is not behind you but ahead of you, right? Yeah, it's she comes from somewhere, and then Kylo in Last Jedi, oh, you're nothing, and then oh no, you are something after all. And it's just kind of the whiplash,
Yeah, and what's funny is I really love the answer, you come from nothing, because I think kind of, again, it reinforces in the mythos of Star Wars, it reinforces this idea that it isn't just that identity that defines you. It isn't your last name of Skywalker or Palpatine or Kenobi or Windu or whatever that enables you this access to the Force and to importance. It's sort of your actions and who you are that defines you, not who came before, which I thought was really cool.
A little Batman in there, Abram.
A little Batman in there. Now, of course, J.J. Abrams disagrees. So
I think that's the reason why I was so upset they didn't really do much with Finn, because you had like this perfect like humblest of origin story with him being like a stormtrooper, and it's like you could have just made him a Jedi, guys. You could have just done that, but oh well, whatever.
I've been actually thinking a lot about Rise of Skywalker recently because of the sentiment on Rise of Skywalker is starting to do a real 180 online. I don't know if you've been noticing this, but people are really going to bat for Rise of Skywalker on Twitter.
Tucker
actually is not part of Tucker. I don't know if you know this, but has muted the My Star Wars Show channel on the Discord. He is jettisoned himself from the Star Wars conversation basically completely. But I still am not a Last Jedi fan. Or sorry, that was wrong. I am a humongous Last Jedi fan. I am still not a Rise of Skywalker fan, but I'm starting to come around on its concepts more. And I really wish that Rise of Skywalker had been like a 6-part miniseries, because as you're saying, like Finn, it's so cool the idea that he's got the Stormtrooper rebellion and he finds those other First Order soldiers on Endor and everything. Like that movie's got some really great ideas, fucking beautiful visually too, as people were talking about that shot of Rey back flipping over Kylo's tie, like
squall in the water. Yeah.
Oh, it's so pretty. I just wish the execution was different, but that's a complete sidebar. Andrew, I say we go through these last community submissions and we call it a day.
All right, let's get to it. Let's see.
So we've got a couple more from Daniel that we can go through. I'm no Jedi from Ahsoka. Now, I don't know where that quote comes from.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
Oh, you know what it is? It's I remember now. It's in The Mandalorian, which she's confronting I forget the woman, but the one with the Beskar like pipe.
Yes. Yes. Is that woman a Night Sister, right?
Wait, what?
Is that woman like a Night Sister?
No, she's like some kind of like imperial like governor or something. She knows like where Thrawn is or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think she has any Dathomir ties.
But yeah, I forgot about that. That, by the way, that is one of my favorite Mandalorian episodes. I was too much in the mode of trying to remember where that would have been in Clone Wars to even think about it being a Mando. But good quote. I'm always a big Ahsoka fan, so perfect. A couple of these we've gone over. Power, unlimited power, of course, an iconic one.
It would be like no.
Very hammy, very fun. The other ones from Daniel have been covered. Daphne says, quote, Misa Jar Jar Binks.
That is a quote. That's a Star Wars quote. That fits the criteria.
Do you believe that he was supposed to be a Sith? No, I don't either.
No.
I think it's kind of it's a fun theory, but I refuse to believe that was ever true.
Yeah.
Some more we've been over. Gotta throw in a Roger, says Seth. I totally agree.
I love that in Phantom Menace where Qui-Gon approaches the droids in the hangar and he's like, where are you going? He's like, oh, going to Coruscant. That doesn't compute. You're under like just like the logic, like, okay, what's the next thing I say? What's it like? I love that moment. The
droids are also so fun in the Clone Wars. There's a great episode with the droids in Rebels where some rebels with Captain Rex stumble across this base looking for like resources, but it turns out inside the base is a decommissioned battle droid battalion and like a tactics droid who's been waiting for an opponent this entire time. The animated shows gave the droids so much more personality, and they already had a lot in the prequels, but I'm always a fan of shouting at the droids. Ow from Ben Solo, classic.
I'm trying to remember when that was in Rise of Skywalker?
I don't remember. He said ow sometime.
I think it's when he jumps on that massive chain on Exegol and he tries to get down to where Rey is with the Emperor. He like jumps on it and he grunts and says, I think he says ow because like he doesn't land the way he wanted to.
Okay.
I think. He does say it.
Here's a great one. Like a bantha. from Book of Boba Fett, perhaps the most recent quote we have on there from who put it in Seth, yes, from when he's trying to teach the Tuscans how to ride the swoop bikes.
That's accurate.
Very good one. We've got Laugh It Up, Fuzzball from Shmuel.
Laugh It Up, Fuzzball.
Fantastic. Droid remember go blah 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 Babu Frick.
Does he actually say that? I don't remember.
I think he does. Hold on, I'm gonna put a cut in the video here because that reminded me. Oh god, I've got something in my closet I have to show you. All right. So you just saw a little cut in the video, but it's worth it because I had to pull out this is actually my adopted child, Babu Frick, who, if you... There it is.
Just say it.
This was a weird late night purchase. Went to Target with my girlfriend, and they literally had an entire end of the aisle in Target that was just these dumb fucking talking Babu Frick toys. So I got this for literally $5.
Oh, okay.
So
that's not bad.
Talking about Babu Frick, had to bring the boy out from the drawer that I have him shoved in.
He does say
He does. So we can confirm firsthand reporting here that Babu Frick does in fact say that. Shum, Vice Admiral Holdo, probably from Seth.
I don't remember her saying that.
I have
Was
no
it
fucking
in a
idea.
comic or something?
I don't know. You said who's scruffy looking. Nicely done. I like this one. This is from Force Awakens. This is from Finn to Rey. Got a boyfriend? Cute boyfriend? When they meet on Jakku. I agree with you. Finn's such an underutilized character. Their banter in Force Awakens is so good. And then one last one from you. So who talks first? You talk first or I talk first? From Poe when he's being interrogated by Kylo.
I actually like all his cold opens in The Last Jedi. I know you don't like the one in The Last Jedi, but I just I don't know. It's kind of it's like a tension breaker in a good way. I like it.
I mean, it's hard for Oscar Isaac to do something wrong in my eyes. I'm a big Oscar Isaac fan. He's so good as Moon Knight right now, too. God, I can't wait for episode 3. But that is for the inferior backlog banter show UMP to discuss. No more Marvel talk on my Star Wars show. We'll continue to breed that rivalry that only exists when Tanner and I remember to stoke it.
It just exists in your mind.
But Andrew, I think that's all the quotes we have.
Oh, but we have one more, Abram. We have one.
Of course.
May the Force be with you.